Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where we have two special guests today that I am beyond excited not only to share with you, but to get into this conversation because when it comes to niching, it is something that I see as an evolving topic when it comes to business and navigating and different stages that we reach. So, being able to have just an open conversation about it, what we have navigated, will really allow you to be able to see exactly how you can navigate this, whether you're going through it now or it's about to come and you don't even realize it. So, to get started, I want to introduce you to our two guests today, and we are going to start with Kia. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Hey, thanks for having me so much, Jess. I'm excited to be here. So, I am Kia Young. I am a marketing and social strategist. So, I help service-based entrepreneurs get their message out into the world and do that by creating timeless marketing strategies. So, we build strategies and systems that really center on your message and reaching your what I like to call the perfect 10 dream client. So we're very focused on your brand message and amplifying that. So that's what I do.
Yes. And Kia is someone that I've been connected with over the past few years. And I think the biggest thing that I always pull from is this concept of timeless with the work that you do, where when we talk about marketing and getting out there in your business, there can be a lot of this chasing, tactics and things that are temporary and those trends and all of that. And it puts people on this hamster wheel. And whenever I see the work that you do in your business and with your clients, it's like, oh, God, yes. Like these are the concepts that you can take no matter what is happening within your business. And I'm sure you even see how relieved your clients feel when it's like, oh, wait, I don't have to do all of that. I can literally just zone in on what my business needs and then show up in that way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's my favorite part because the emotional burden of a lot of the, like you said, hamster wheel chasing is gone and lifted from them after we work together.
Yes. So, Martha, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Jess. I am Martha Garza. I am a luxury brand strategist, and I work with coaches, consultants, service providers, and helping them become, I always saying this, the criteria of their business, like become the top of their niche by really bringing out their brilliance. I feel like the people that come to work with me are amazing at what they do, and they're like this hidden gems. So I feel like they started with one brand and then they grew so much, did amazing work, and now it doesn't match, their look and feel and the way they communicate doesn't match how amazing they actually are and how badass they are. And I help them up level. So most of my clients actually have brands and help them rebrand into their next version of themselves. Like you said, business owning is just such a cyclical thing. So it's really cool that I get to partner up with them and get all their brilliance out into the world and have that key message that then someone like Kia can grab and help them, bring everywhere. I feel like branding and marketing are so hand in hand in one that like one is creating the foundation and the other one is really bringing this massive amplification to it.
Absolutely. And I've had that experience when your brand is no longer connecting anymore and it's really hard to show up on social, your offers, your marketing, like all of that. It's like deep down like I have to fix this because nothing's really connecting the same way and I have elevated to a certain level and you just can't let it go that doesn't connect. And then being able to have that piece where you come in and it's like, look, like you're right. You have outgrown your previous brand. Here's where you're heading now. We can help create all of that for you, right? And get you going in the right direction. It's like, oh, thank you. Somebody understands the words that I am trying to say here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what I want to do is really go into our topic today, which is going all into niching within your business, because this is one that tends to have so much resistance behind it. It's also one that it's hard for me to explain to people that when like you have those feelings going on inside that this isn't it, right? Something needs to change, whether it is niching down further within the audience you already have or it may be changing your niche completely. Those both come with its own just roller coaster ride to go through. So I want to have an open conversation around that and what it looked like for you. So Kia, tell us a little bit about a time when you did have to make that shift within your niche.
Yeah, the funny thing is when I found out this is what we are going to be talking about, I really sat down and looked at my business over the last almost 5 years. And I've shifted a lot. And I'm actually getting ready to shift again. But the first time that I really had to focus on a niche is when I started my business. I was a social media manager. So I just created content for other online businesses, and I really didn't have a niche. So whether you were product based or service based or whatever you did, I would create content for you. And I realized as I was doing that work that it was so much easier for me and the way that I work and the way that I approach content creation and social media marketing to do that for service based business owners versus product based business owners. And the more work that I did between the two of them, I realized that product-based businesses are very much focused on, how many sales did we get from that social media post, which is not a bad thing inherently, but the way I work is so ingrained in messaging and amplifying who you are and what you believe and why you exist, that the product-based businesses didn't really care so much about that because it was more about connecting with like a thing versus a value or a brand altogether. And the service-based businesses just got that immediately, and it was like magic whenever I worked with them. So that was the first time I niched down, is definitely deciding, okay, now I only work with service-based business owners. And I thought that it was kind of scary because I had quite a few product-based business clients, but when I was able to shift to service-based, everything just worked better. I felt better about the work that I was putting out. Our relationships were better because they were actually getting the results that they needed in the way that they wanted. And so everyone on every side of that was happy. So that was the first time I had to niche down.
Did you happen to have during that were still product based businesses coming to you of like, hey, we'll pay you, like, here, we need your help, and it's that like push and pull of I need the money but also like I don't want this
Absolutely.
anymore.
Even today, even still 5 years later, when everyone knows that I'm service based, like people see me and they're like, I want what you have. And I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, and there have been times where I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to see," because they're a product-based business, but they have a personal brand. Like they're the face of their brand, and so it
Yeah.
should be a little bit easier. And no, it wasn't. And I truly just don't. I don't jive with the way that they look at metrics, and not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not who I am inherently and what I care about and what matters most to me. And all of those things work for service space. So it's also like going against your very nature of how you do business and what you believe in my personal methodology. So yeah, now it's an easy no, but in the beginning it was not as easy to turn away from.
Yes. And that's where all of those thoughts start to come in of like, am I turning away money? Like maybe this is just temporary. And I feel like a lot of that comes in the moment that you've made the decision. It's almost like this like funny test, like funny, not funny of, oh, do you really want this? Or do you really want to
Exactly.
switch? You're like, oh my God, I can do it.
Yes, yeah, always. It's almost like a test. Yeah, just like someone saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna see what she does," and to see if they can dangle that carrot in front of you and if you'll take it or not. Yeah, you're only
Mhm.
causing yourself more heartache, honestly, if you go for it.
Yes. And I'm curious, and Martha, I would love to hear this from you too when we get into your story. I feel like, and what is it, like Leanne Rhymes, like the first cut is the deepest, like that song that's totally about relationships. But when it comes to business, whether it is the first time you change your niche, like any of that, it's like the hardest thing to be able to do because you just don't know it's going to be okay in the end
Hmm.
yet. So there's just so much just weight associated with it. Do you feel the same way about the first time you niche versus like now you're going through a shift in your business?
Okay,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Kia.
absolutely. It was so hard in the beginning and to walk away from, but now I'm a big TikToker. I don't know if you guys are. I watch TikTok all the time, but right now there's this trending TikTok where they're like, um, somebody's trying to get into like a nightclub or something. They're like, no, do you have a wristband? And they're like, no. Well, then you can't get in. And that's how I feel like, no, are you like service based and have all these other things that I need? And if you don't have it, it's like, no, you can't get in. So it becomes so much easier because you see, one, there you will always have more clients, and two, you can just show up better and be more proud of your work that you're doing when you're doing it the way that you're supposed to with the people that you're supposed to be doing. So it becomes such an easy no or yes to the right people, the more that you embrace who you're actually supposed to be serving.
Yes, could not agree more. And that's where I'd love to hear, Martha, the same question as far as the first shift that you've made versus any you've made future, and then that your story too.
Oh, of course. I've been in business for a little under 2 years, so I'm newer
Mhm.
than you guys. I know you've been in the space for a while. I think the biggest thing for me was I came from corporate marketing. I came for 10 years in corporate marketing, and I was like, you know what? I was doing marketing. I could totally do marketing. And I hated it. I was like, and then someone offered me a lot of money, and I was like, they're offering me a lot of money. I would like be okay with this. I
Mhm.
wasn't. So I think recognizing that, like, that is my zone of excellence, but it wasn't my zone of genius. And being willing to own that, you know what, brand strategy is my zone of genius. And I am a trained designer. I think month two of my business, I hired my designer and I decided I was not designing. And I feel like that also choosing what you really want to do, even the clients aside, was a big change for me. Like, I am a multi passionate that loves a ton of things. And, you know, I went to marketing school and I went to design school and I'm a trained coach and I love all those things. And being able to choose, like, this is the one thing I want to do, and things can change, but that won't change, was a freaking amazing thing for me to do. Like, that was the biggest gift I gave myself. The fact that, yes, I creative direct my team and I manage, I don't design. I decided that, you know, the books that I wrote, I used to spend 20 hours doing them. I don't write them anymore. I have a team member for that. And that doesn't make the experience worse for my clients, it makes it better. So I think being super, super focused on also, yes, the industry, but the what I do for me was very liberating. And now people come and they're like, can you do social media management? I'm like, absolutely not. But you can talk to these three people that are amazing. Do you do X? I'm like, no, we don't do campaigns. You can talk to these marketing companies I love and admire. And I think being able to do that and like really send people away has been
Mhm.
able, like, has helped so much to really, really focus on. In terms of the people I was working with, I the last industry I was, well, one of the last ones, I was 5 years in the food industry, and I was like, you know, I've opened so many restaurants, I could totally help restaurants. Out of 45 rebrands, I've helped one restaurant. And that feels like, I'm so sure, you know, like, oh, I come from food, I could totally understand food, I could do. And I started getting hired by a lot of coaches and consultants, service providers, and I remember being like, I don't want to be serving the online world. It feels like it's not real. Like, especially from someone coming from corporate, you know, it's like, that world is cookie. I don't know if I want to be there. And then I started getting hired by all these coaches, and I ended up, I think it's the biggest niche I've ever around, the coaches and then consultant service providers. And I resisted it for so long. And I think for me, it was like the not resisting and the actually embracing these people that are, first, are amazing to work with, that are fun to work with. And I get to do what I'm the best at, like, which is the brand strategy piece. It was so freaking cool. And then the ones I embraced that, and I, like Kia said, I only work with these people. I don't work with product surveys. I don't work. It became easier and easier to be like, these are my people. And to your point and to Kia's point, yes, that was really hard in the beginning. I remember having to say, I don't do marketing anymore. I do brand strategy, especially as something that was your identity for so many years, right? I was like
Mhm.
the marketing manager, the marketing director. There's nothing wrong with it. But like, I love being a brand strategist, and I know that this is like what lights up. I was chatting recently with a designer, and I was like, yeah, we can partner up and I can do brand strategy, you can do design. I'm not interested in doing that anymore. It feels so liberating. And as I am also getting close to my second big shift in my business too, it doesn't scare me as much as the first one, because I've seen that you can go through it and be okay on the other side. Yeah.
Yes. And you hit on something that I see so much. Like, I consider myself a creative. It's always been in my background. Like, it's never going to go away. It's one of my top core values. I love it. But because I attract a lot of like-minded people, then it goes to, but I'm multi-passionate. And I'm like, same. I get it, right? Like, I love a lot of things too. However, did you find that when you stopped using it in that space of your business and decided to say, you know what, like, sure, I could be multi-passionate. I could, that's fine. Except in business, I am going to focus on this one audience. I'm going to narrow down. Did that make you showing up for your own marketing, for your discovery calls, all of that easier because you knew exactly that you were talking to these people?
So much easier. And I think like yes, being creative and having all these passions is great. I actually have my jewelry brand aside. I have abandoned it a little bit, but I've created what it's helping me now is I created branded jewelry for people. So I'm actually
Mhm.
able to connect that to the branding. And again, yes, I think narrowing it down and grabbing the thing that I think committing it's a hard thing for a lot of people because we feel like it's going to block our creativity, but you can be hella creative while being committed to your thing and being the best at your thing and keep getting better at your thing. So for me, it was actually very like the opposite, right? Like very liberating. But I thought the same. I thought it was going to be scary. Like, what if I get bored of this? Which hasn't
Mhm.
happened. I get more excited, And like you and me just were talking about it recently. Like, I sometimes feel like people are paying me for this. I would do this for free. And that is, I think, how you know that you're on the right path and you can still have interest in other things and learn on the side. Like I'm an old lifetime learner, and that's okay. I think
Mhm.
the moment you decide to go fully for something is honestly when you start seeing open doors. And like to Kia's point, where you start seeing everyone that you don't even knew or wanted to come to work with you, they're like coming from everywhere. And I think being so clear on who I am and who I serve, like I got a random message, I don't know, Facebook or whatever, but Messenger. They're like, I've heard that you are the branding person to talk to. And I was like, I created that. Like, it took a while, but to Kia's point, like talking about your key message and being consistent and not having to change your messaging every week. Because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we feel that, right? Like, this is so boring. I talked about it for a week. Everyone knows. Like, no, nobody knows, Martha. Everyone has their own thing. But yeah, I think that decision has paid off so well because it got me focused. And there's so many different ways to tell the same story. And I think the more you choose that, the more you choose to like go fully in and sit with the discomfort of the first months because it feels weird as hell, then
Mhm.
it pays off in ways that you didn't even think of.
I just wanted to add to that, like niching down allows you to get so much more clarity for your message. Like things become easier when you are very sure about what Martha was saying, what you do, and who you serve. And so, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone who hasn't niched down yet, and I'm asking them, like, okay, so who's your perfect 10 dream client? And they can't give me more than she's a 35 to 45-year-old woman who likes Target. There's not one person in my life that doesn't like Target. You know what I mean? That's not helpful, right? And so when you are able to niche down, you are able to get clarity in your message and what you're saying to the world. And just like everything becomes easier as far as marketing goes, because you know exactly who you're talking to. So it's important because you're doing the work you want to do, but it also provides you so much clarity in the other parts of your business that you need, like marketing, that takes that creativity and time. You just have so much more clarity and it becomes easier to get your message out because you're speaking to a very specific person.
And
Yes.
it
And
lands to Kia's point. Yeah. I was going to say just
Mhm.
like that, it really lands to their hearts. Like it's
Mhm.
when you're so specific, people start messaging you and saying, like, that's me. How did you know? Like, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I was going through. You cannot do that for everyone, right?
Right. Not for
absolutely.
35 to 50-year-olds who love Target.
No.
And you know what, Kia? I know because you've been, in the online space for some time as well. I was like, okay, you're just seeing me a decade later, right? Like I've been in this
Mhm.
space for a while. And when it comes to things like your niche, I think it's way more important now than it even was before, where the more people coming into this space and people coming into your industry and things like that, like when I originally started business, it was like, oh yeah, I'm helping women lose weight with me. Here's what we're doing. I could get
Hmm.
away with that because it wasn't like, that big of a thing. I could never get away with that message now because it's like, who is that? Like, who is everyone?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's so important to because it is very loud and noisy right now. And so just
Mhm.
what we were saying, like niching down is actually what helps you get louder because people are looking for the thing that's going to serve them. Our consumers right now are shopping with a purpose, whether it be a service or a product. And so, the more that you can amplify who you serve, why you serve them, what your brand values are, and your purpose for existing, the more it's going to go straight to their heart and they can self select into your community.
Yes.
I love that.
What does the aftermath look like? So after you navigated the emotions, the hesitations, the resistance, what did that start to clear for you?
I feel like for me was a big eye-opening thing that, this is normally in business. And also like I feel like it feels such a big deal the first time. But then you start learning that evolution happens. I tell that to my clients, right? Like you have to rerun at least every 5 years because by then your brand looks completely different. And I normalize it for them. I'm like, this is not once and done. Yes, the brand looks beautiful now. 5 years from now, it might not match you for X, Y reasons. So I feel like applying that to myself. And I think now that as I go into a second big, jump, what I take with me from the first time is that like it's gonna be okay no matter what, even if those feelings and emotions they're still there. I feel like sometimes we think I remember because yes, everyone was like, when you make 100K, and then I made 100K and I was like, okay, now what? Like this didn't change anything of how I feel. Like it's still like I was expecting where like the balloons are popping, like I'm gonna be in this magic dreamland where nothing scares me anymore because everyone
Mhm.
painted it like that, right? I remember being so sad after my first 100K because I was like, now what? But I think for me, what really solidified is that the more I really embraced all of it, and it sounds very cliche, but true, like brought everything who I am out into the picture and told people about, to Kia's point, why the fuck do I do this? Like, why do I care? Why do I create it? But why do I create what I create? And what this to me makes a difference in the world and what I'm so invested in it. I think it really brought people in. And it became something so natural. I feel like we sometimes think that we need to, prep for, this elevator pitch. But when it's something that you're really align, I use the word align a lot. Like when there's alignment with you and what you offer and what you do, and it's just like it's something so natural that it's even hard to stop yourself about speaking about it because it's just so who you are and like your maximum expression of your brilliance into the world that it just becomes this easy thing. And I think now as I prepare to like create an agency and change a lot of the things I do now, I'm like, cool, what did I learn from the first, pivot? There's a book that's called Jump and Your Life Will Appear. And I love that idea that I would like, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to jump and I'm gonna try that these things are gonna appear. And I'm not gonna do it also just like, without strategy or without planning. But also there's I think a mix of strategy and a mix of faith that whatever you said earlier, that the voice becomes too loud that you cannot ignore it. It's just there and it's loud and it's calling you to be brave. So I think though there's this much more confidence and peace that no matter what the hell happens, it's gonna be okay. So I think that's what I learned from the first one. That first niching down is such a freaking gift that it has allowed me as a baby entrepreneur of 2 years to become a go-to for people. And that when they hear luxury brand strategy, like Martha. And I was going to say that earlier to Kia's point that I think brand strategy for me, what it means is radical differentiation. And it's occupying space in people's minds because, yes, the world is so loud. But when you get to a point where it's easy for me to know, oh, if you want to go from one-on-one to evergreen courses and workshops, go with Jess. That to me is winning. Like when I'm like, oh, social media service provider, you need to go with Kia. Like that occupying space in someone's brain is the best thing you can do. And the way you get there is by being super clear and niching down. And I also still, to your point, get a lot of clients that are like, I want to help everyone. I'm like, yes, and we won't do that. One of my clients was like, my tagline is we are one stop shop. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, we're not saying that. That's horrible. I like had to bring him back to reality. But it's so cool to have that opportunity to sit down and be like, okay, who do I really want to serve? Because I think also we think, you know, those people maybe won't have money for me or whatever. Like we have all these misconceptions about the niche. And when you actually give it a go and fully go in, you I think discover that there's more to it than you think.
Yes. And, one of my friends, Jacqueline Malone, brought this up years ago, and she was saying about essentially being taggable. And it was this one word or one phrase you want to associate with you. And it's exactly what you're saying, where, okay, now it just like solidifies in your mind so that it makes it easy for people to refer you. It makes it easy for people to remember you. And if you're like, well, I do a little bit of this and I help you get aligned so that you can live your life and then your business will twist and turn and all this, it's like nobody's remembering that. We just can't, right? We have so much stuff in our mind already. So this keeps it where it is super simple and concise. And since you already did it once, you know how to get known for that one phrase or one word. Well, it's a lot easier the next time and the next time because you understand what you have to do to like solidify that in the market. You just have to do it now with a different phrase if you're pivoting or changing up the niche.
Yeah.
So Kia, tell us where you are now as far as what you have learned when it comes to really leaning into the feelings and the hesitations that come up, and what it looks like when you allow yourself to get past that point and really zero in.
Yeah, so this always reminds me of a conversation that I had with Erica Tebbins, who is a brilliant growth strategist, right? She helps you grow your business and marketing and through marketing and sales. And we started our business at the exact same time. So 5 years ago, we have the same business birthday. And I believe it was last year, and we were evolving some things in our business. And I looked at her and she looked at me and we're like, when does it end? When do you get to the point where you're like, this is what I do, and then you're not evolving and refining and all of when does it end? And then we both were like, we think the answer is never. Like we think the answer is it is a constant refinement of doing the work, deciding what worked for you, what worked for your clients, and then optimizing that work, making it better for both yourself, whether it be like, oh, I want to be able to spend more time with my kids, or I want to be able to take a vacation once every quarter, like whatever that looks like, so that you can get to the life that you want is a constant refinement, a constant evolution. So being able to embrace that then makes all those emotions that come with, switching, whether it's you're switching your offers or you're switching a niche, it makes it easier to digest because you're like, this is just a part of the process. Whereas in the beginning, it was just like, am I just getting this wrong? Like, why do I keep getting this wrong where I need to change things? Now it's just like, oh no, I'm becoming a big girl. Like I'm truly creating the life that I want in the way that I want it. And that's going to take some give and take. It's going to take trying some things. Like Martha said, I always used to make a joke that my thing was jumping and then learning how to fly on the way down. So kind of like the book that you were talking about. And so now it's like, oh, okay, it's just time to jump again, and now I don't necessarily, I know how to fly versus, in the beginning where I didn't. Now it's just a matter of like, how quick am I going to go from like falling down to like truly like that swoop up that birds do when they jump. So how quickly will I be able to go, up? So there are a lot of emotions, but it does get easier. And, again, like I shared, I'm in this space where I'm about to not switch my niche, but switch some offers. And whenever you switch an offer, it may be that your niche is it's maybe the same person, but a different part of that person's journey. And so you have to learn and communicate with still who that same, ideal client, perfect 10 dream client is, but maybe in a different way in order to get them to understand whatever your new offer or something is. So it's a learning experience. Like Martha said, being a lifelong learner is part of being an entrepreneur. But it gets easier, and actually it can be really exciting to be like, oh, I get to, like, you do get a little bored every now and then. Like, you're like, oh, okay, I've done this for a while. Like, how are we gonna jazz this up? And so now I kind of embrace it as like, okay, it's go time now. It's time to do something exciting and be able to prove to yourself once again that you can do it. Because every time that you try something new, switch your niche, and then you're actually successful, you get a little bit more confident. You're like, hell yeah, I did it. And you learn to bet on yourself so that when you come out with a new offer or come out with a brand new program or something, you're like, oh yeah, it's scary, but I believe in me because I've done it so many times. So don't be afraid to do the thing, because this is just building your confidence and building your ability to bet on yourself in the end.
Mm-hmm. And I love the reframe of that. And I remember I had a very similar moment with myself where it's like, wait a minute, like, why is it never just set? And then it's like, do you want it to just be set? Like, do you want to just be here and that's it? And I go through this with people with courses too, where like they try to have like the one and done course. And I'm like, are you trying to say like you're never going to grow, evolve, learn a different skill set, teach differently? Like you're never going to get better? Because in that case, every time you elevate and you get better, you're going to go back to your previous stuff and want to make changes because you can't help yourself. And the same thing goes with who we serve is as you continue to evolve, then you will either outgrow audiences or there's just going to be different ways that you want to serve, which is what you're going through, Kia, where it's like, no, the audience is the same, but the offerings are different because I feel they would be better supported with this instead.
Yeah, absolutely. So all good stuff. It's all good stuff, nothing to be afraid of, even though it feels kind of scary.
Yes, it sure does. And that's the thing, you're like, nope, I can get through this. I can move forward. I am going to be okay. And with that, number one, thank you both for sharing because, again, part of this whole podcast is to be able to have these open conversations and these jam sessions so that anyone who is navigating is like, okay, yep, feeling the feelings. It's okay, right? This is normal. And this is something I can actually see the good in my business of like, oh, looks like we're upgrading now. Looks like we're elevating. This is the feeling that comes with that. And now I could take these actions because it's going to be okay. I know how to do this. I just have to give myself permission. And what I want to do as we wrap up this episode is I have this deck of cards, you guys, and we're going to see how this plays out for the podcast because in my mind, this is super fun. We're going to call this we're going to call this Humans Being Humans. And essentially, this little deck is random questions, and we are going to see what comes up. Okay. So let's see. We're going to start with Martha here. So, what would you say is the funniest or weirdest text you've ever received?
The funniest or weirdest. I'll switch it up a little. It's something I send, but I send it from my roommate's phone, phone or email, and I wrote my now fiance, "Hey baby, I'm at your apartment," and he saw that from Jonathan something, and he was like, "Who the hell is in my apartment?" Or it's on the way to my apartment, and why a Jonathan 81 is calling me baby. So probably that. I would say that him getting that message from a Jonathan 81 that said, "Hey baby, I'm at your place," was very weird, and then he figured out that it was me when he made it home. So yeah, that.
Do you imagine walking into your place and you're like, who is it?
Yeah.
Who is here right now?
I mean, I might have called the police and had them open the door first.
Yeah. I'd be over here like, new phone, who dis? Like, what is going on?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So Kia, oh, this is great. If you were reincarnated as a famous landmark, because I know you love traveling, which would it be?
Oh my gosh, what a
Ooh.
great question. Who, a famous landmark? Um, Goodness, I think my answer would probably be the White House. And that's just because so many people come there that I would be able to see, like, I'd be able to see a lot and experience a lot.
Love that.
It probably doesn't help that I live close to DC, so that's the first
Oh.
landmark that kind of came across. I don't know how interesting that is, but that is, yeah, that's my answer. And maybe that's a signal that this area is starting to become home now. I've only lived here for a
Aw.
few years, so that's funny that as much as I love to travel, that was the first thing that came to mind.
Ah, and you know what? Can you invite me to one of the fancy dinners? Because, like, I
Yeah.
will get a dress. I will be there.
We're
Anytime you
super
want to come
close.
down. Yeah,
We can take
anytime
a
you guys want to
train.
come. Listen, I will always make time for a fancy dinner. So let's just choose a date and make it happen. I already have some ideas of where we can go.
Yes, love it. Awesome. Well, I want everyone to know exactly where they can find you and what it is that you do. So, Martha, tell us where we can find you on the internet.
Yes. So luxury brand strategist. You can find me on Instagram at Martha Cristina, Martha with an H, Cristina with no H because Mexican name. You can also find me on Facebook. I use a lot of my personal profile to chat about my business. So Cristina Garza, and my website is Martha again with an H in Garza, Garza. And that's where they can find me. They can message me, send me a DM. I'm pretty open to conversation there. Thank you.
Yes. And Kia, let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, I keep it pretty simple. So my website is kiayoung.com. And on social channels, you can find me across the board except for TikTok. I'm there, but this is not, it's for personal use right now. At Kia Knows Social. So Kia Knows Social across all social platforms. Is how to find me. I hang
Thank
out
you.
mostly
And
on Instagram and LinkedIn.
awesome. We are going to link all of that up in the show notes so that you can go ahead and click and follow both Kia and Martha, get to connect with them, say hi, let them know you heard them on the podcast. And thank you both for being here. Again, thank you for being open to conversation and really being able to share the ins and outs of your business. I absolutely appreciate it. And we will be chatting soon.